Show us the book, chaps. What have we got here?
It looks fantastic. It looks really good.
It's nice to see all these contributors in here.
Martin Darville, Jeff Downs, lovely chap.
Mari, of course.
Marc Bonilla,
Mandy.
Jim Davison, Skunk Baxter. What I thought was great about the ELP book that just came out is it says everything about Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but with this book, of course, it focuses a lot more on Dad and covers pretty much everything from all the people that were close to him, all his friends.
Cousin Mandy, up in the corner. She's got some great stories about Keith in this book.
Well, Dad used to play the piano at her dance school, and they were all tap dancing while he was playing the piano, as far as I remember. Robert Berry, Andrew Lane, Stuart Young.
1958, look, when he was really young.
Yeah.
And school reports from when he was young.
Chris Welch is an old friend and knows Dad and knows about his music. And I thought he would be the perfect choice to get this book together. Steve Howe, I was backstage and I went to him and said hello because I really liked Yes's 90125 album. And I went up to him and said, oh, I love your 90125 album. He goes, thanks, Aaron, it's the only one I didn't play on. I've always wanted to go back and apologise.
Look, it looks like you were screaming. Look at your dad's face looking at you.
Well, I am screaming.
You haven't stopped since.
And then Rick Wakeman, of course my mum. What do you say about her? Rocky.
I remember the story in the book how Keith had come back one night to get into his hotel, had locked himself out or lost his key or something, and he had to climb up the side of a building, and then he broke in through the window and it was into somebody else's bathroom. All the way through this book, the stories he tells are just laugh out loud funny. Yeah. The same with Andrew Lane. Those stories, it makes you feel like you were there. God, look how skinny he was. There's nothing of him.
So yeah, there we go, that's Stonehill. The Labour government came in and the taxes or something rose straight through the roof. I think all musicians had to pay like 95% of their earnings to the tax. So I think that's when we went to Switzerland for 1 year. And then after that, Dad took off down to Nassau. It was great, of course it was great. I just remember him just playing the piano and it was just a part of life, you know, it was just growing up, that's what he did. That's the nurse shark that he caught. I think that was on the Honky album. I just don't remember how it ended. I really don't know how. Frank Scully, I was happiest guy in the world.
Frank Scully.
He was the drummer on the Honky album and worked with Dad. That was one time I think when Bob Marley came down to the island and was it Dad and them taught him how to water ski.
I remember actually sitting in a restaurant with your mum and your dad. They were telling the whole story about how they taught him how to water ski and he never wore shoes and he was rubbish at water skiing.
There was one time, when Dad was trying to teach me how to water ski. As I'm sitting there ready to get pulled out of the water, he sticks on the John Williams Jaws music. And it terrified me.
It looks like Ethan there, look.
So that's the part in Stonehill where he had his studio, and then, of course it developed and got bigger and bigger with the stuff in there. And then one day, my mother was at the next door neighbours down the road, and she was walking up the road, and there was a tractor that had veered off straight into the studio, through the barn, and smashed up all his stuff. Now, he had the Yamaha GX1 and his back would have been to the wall. So if he would have been there at that time, that tractor would have run right over him. But the funny thing is that it actually went just at that point where the music was, because I don't think that farmer liked the music.
Maybe not, maybe not.
That is a terrible picture of me.
But I mean, your dad's hair is not much better, is it? So when we were going through all of this stuff, it turns out that these postcards, he started writing postcards to his mum when he started touring, when he was in his teens, and then he used to send postcards every time he was away, all the way through his life. This was when he was giving lessons to Ethan.
That's the piano where he was playing on.
And he was teaching him Lonesome George's murmurings. Lonesome George, that massive, great big tortoise, the Galapagos Island tortoise, because Keith and Eleanor had met Lonesome George when they went to the Galapagos Islands.
And then he went and bought a couple.
He said, you just put them out in the morning and then just bring them in at night. And I was like, maybe there's a little bit more to it than that. Oh, look.
Smokey
the African grey.
He loved his parrots. In his house in Santa Monica, I think he had one and he let it out for the day and it just flew off. I remember coming back once from a friend's house and there was a green roadster. When I walked into the house, it was Jeff Beck.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice. Hello, Jeff. There was one time when the doorbell rang and I opened up the door and it was Roger Daltrey. He goes, oh, it's Keith, eh? Jeff Skunk Baxter's got some great stories. I think there was just 3 shows, wasn't it, over in Japan. Jeff Skunk Baxter, John Entwistle, Rick Livingston, and Dad. But someone asked me, when did you realise that your dad was very popular? But, you know, I remember just leaving a gig in a big car with lots of people banging on the windows, and I really thought that he'd done something to offend everyone or upset everybody. Obviously, it was very devastating what happened. To go through all of these memories and notes and you find things out, it's difficult. But once we've gone through every part of it and we've put it all together in such a fantastic book with all its collection, he'd be so proud. He'd be so proud of it.
Too. Oh my God, do you remember that e-bike? He had that e-bike over here, and then somebody wrote into the newspaper.
Who the hell does Keith Emerson think
he is cycling on the pavement in Shoreham by Sea?
When we were moving around and we got in the attic and we got stuff from his mum's house, you know, our relatives.
His mum, I think, kept every single scrap of paper or every single photograph she ever had. She kept everything. And I remember this when he's with the Keith Emerson band and they set fire to a piano in the middle of the desert. And Ethan was like, poor Grandad, why has somebody set fire to Grandad's piano? Now he's got no piano to play.
I always wondered why you always had to like throw knives at it. I couldn't think, why don't you play something else if you don't like the piano that much?
Stabbed it, set fire to it.
No, I actually do remember the spinning piano bit, but at that age it was I thought it was kind of interesting.
And then it goes all the way through his whole career. And then the nice reunion with Lee and with Dave. Lots of memories as well for the last 10 years of his life when he was with Mari, and she's got some amazing stories and photos that she's contributed into here. People have never seen some of these photos. I've never seen some of these photos. It's really lovely to see. Oh look, that's at High Voltage.
Yeah, so the High Voltage obviously was the last time that I saw them.
That's the only time I ever got to see Emerson, Lake and Palmer ever.
And it was a great show.
We watched all that show from backstage, didn't we? And then we went down, we made our way through the crowd, and then someone tapped you on your shoulder and said, can you move? You're a bit too tall. Can you just move? So we went back to where we were originally.
Yeah, so all this, all his equipment is at EMIAP, Vince Papello Senior and Junior.
Yeah, they've contributed here quite a lot too.
It is the most incredible place.
And people use those instruments as well. I think it's the most important thing that I think Keith would have loved.
I mean, I went over there it was a lockdown project, but to do Lucky Man, which will come out later, but I went over there to play the solo part on that Moog.
Oh, that piano's at EMIAP as well, isn't it? So this is the signature edition.
May I?
The signature
Drum
edition.
roll, please.
No, I think you open it here, look. Don't rip it. Don't rip the...
Look at that.
There's the lovely book, the signature page at the front, signed by yours truly. There you are, and Chris Welsh. And what's in here? This is the CD with the interview, an hour worth of interview on there. Oh, this is the Quartermas Boogie Woogie. Look.
It really is so rewarding to see how much love everyone has put into the book.
It shows, I think, how everybody has got not just funny stories, but stories that people tell are just full of affection for him and love for him, and he was a nice guy. And I think that comes across in all of these stories in this book.